If you look at corruption scandals across the world, often the motive is greed, which manifests as a bribe with the intent to gain advantage. This advantage could be to acquire a contract, hinder an investigation, win a contest, or atonement, or gain access to decision makers, especially political and/or financial. So, what constitutes a bribe? Bribe is the act of taking or receiving something, with the intention of influencing the recipient in some way, favorable to the party providing the bribe. The scale of a bribe varies, ranging from minor transactions between individuals, to major deals between corporations and/or governments, involving money and/or goods, such as expensive gifts. Bribes can take many forms, and can occur in many different areas. Some of the more common instances of bribery include bribery and kickbacks, bribing a public official, bribery of, or by a witness, bribing a foreign official, banking bribery, and sporting bribes. Whichever form the bribe might be, it affects society in a negative way. Bribery provides people with the ability to get away with breaking the law by paying off officials.
13, Sergeant 1 Central.
This creates an unjust society that prosecutes the innocent, while leaving the perpetrators almost invisible.
Good day, everyone. The video clip you watched was an example of an ethical dilemma that a public official or employee might face at work. As a result, we decided to interview one public officer to learn about her perspective on the issue and how she deals with it as a public employee.
Good day, everyone. I'm Odessa Nesho, a government employee. My reaction on the video that I have just watched is regarding bribery, and I believe that bribery is connected to corruption. So being a government employee, we have this policy that is called no gift policy. So basically, we are not allowed to receive any kind of gift, whether it is cash or in kind. Regarding this no gift policy, it was created because of the Code of Ethical Standards na dapat in-observe ng lahat ng government employee, whether in public or government sector. So dito po sa Code of Ethical Standard, we have this norm of conduct that we have to follow. First and foremost, kailangan i-uphold namin yung public interest over and beyond our personal interest. So, kung tatanggap kami ng gifts sa aming mga clients or members, basically mai-impluwensyahan nito kung paano namin sila binibigyan ng serbisyo. Kaya, as much as possible, kahit po yun ay isang form ng pagpapasalamat sa magandang serbisyong ibinigay namin, we choose not to receive anything from our members or clients. So that wala na rin pong magkaroon ng precedent na maaaring pang magkaroon ng maling interpretasyon yung ibang tao doon sa mga natatanggap namin na regalo o pabor sa aming mga kliyente. And secondly, norm of conduct of a government employee should be professionalism. So dapat i-conduct namin yung sarili namin at the highest degree of excellence and professionalism. So dapat po ay walang makitang bahid dungis kahit konti man lang sa aming mga government employees na maaaring makaapekto sa perception ng mga tao sa nasa gobyerno. So para maiwasan po yun, kahit pa nga anong klase ng gift, kahit po yan ay pagpapasalamat, ay hindi na po namin yung tinatanggap. Ganun po namin siya ina-address para din po hindi siya makonect sa bribery and later on ay masabi na ang government office na pinagsisilbihan namin ay involved in corruption.
Good day, everyone. I'm Rosemary Alalava, the first presenter. As you watch the video clip about the bribery, which constitute the no-give policy for public officials and employees, and also the interview with Ms. Odessa Necio, which highlighted her thoughts about this alarming issue in public administration and the things they do to prevent this kind of situation. Now let's proceed to our main topic for today about the values and ethics of public responsibility, but first let's know our objectives. First is to identify the difference between ethics, ethical behavior, and values. Second is to distinguish the role of public administrative and officials. Third is to identify different factors of negative behavior in workplace. Fourth is to determine different ethical dilemmas in the workplace. And lastly, explain Executive Order 217 and Memorandum Circular Number 109. So, let's proceed. And now, let's define what is ethics. Ethics is a moral principles that govern a person's behavior or the conducting of an activity. When we say ethics, it is mostly concerned on human conduct or specifically of individuals in a society. For example, there are standards that are imposed reasonable consequences to refrain rape, stealing, murder, assault, slander, or even fraud. In here, ini-impose yung standard na yun upang ma-guide ang isang tao na huwag gawin yung maling behavior sa kanyang kapwa and also sa society. But when we say ethical behavior, is the application of the moral principles. It is what is accepted as good and right in the context of governing moral code. Means you as a person behave according to the moral standard or what we call ethics. And there are four commonly ethical behavior that an individual must possess. First is honesty. Second is fairness. Third is integrity or being upright. And lastly, understanding. These four are the most common behavior that an individual should have so that he or she will not violate the principles of code of conduct. And another important term is values. Values is a broad beliefs about what is and not appropriate behavior. Sinasabi na ang values daw is kung ano yung pinaniniwalaan nating tama o mali. Kumbaga, it is more on sa traits natin. And according to Dalton E. McFarland, values do not necessarily control behavior or assure reliable predictions of behavior, but values are influential and will therefore be helpful in understanding executive behavior. So, sinasabi ni Dalton na yung values daw ay hindi niya primarily kinokontrol yung behavior o kaya naman hindi tayo nito binibigyan ng exact na prediction regarding sa behavior ng isang tao. Pagkas tinutulungan tayo nito na maunawaan kung ano ba yung acceptable na behavior na mayroon dapat ang isang tao, especially sa kanyang workplace. Also, Jose P. Laurel explained in his book, Public Administration, the Business of Government, that personal values are developed as individuals respond to social realities, while ethics operate as he attempts to do his task within the social norms for a work group or society. So, it is true that values and ethics guide human behaviors in an institutional organization. They are relative to one another and never otherwise. Now let's know more about public office. Public office is both a duty and a position of great importance in a government bureaucracy. According to Section 1 of Article 11 of the 1987 Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines, public office is a public trust. Public officers and employees must at all times be accountable to the people, serve them with utmost responsibility, integrity and loyalty and efficiency, act with patriotism and justice, and lead to the boldest lives. The ideal concept of public office, expressed by the words, "A public office is a public trust," signifies that the officers has been entrusted with public power by the people. That the officer hold this power in trust to be used only for their benefit and never for the benefit of himself or of a few, and that the officer must never conduct his own affairs so as to infringe on the public interest. All official conduct of members of the Senate should be guided by this paramount concept of public office. It is then essential to the general welfare and necessary to the preservation of the government that public affairs be properly administered via acceptable norms. Public office, as being a public trust, must be kept in the hearts among the said officers, for it illuminates the sanctity of their task and position. If they fail to do so, no popular government can ever survive without the confidence and trust of the people, which is the root of it all. While values of public administration is a belief of central importance to which approbation or moral or sentimental worth is attached, public administrators must conduct themselves in a manner that shows the public that they are trustworthy. This means adhering to a core values for the safety and good of the public. There are four known core values for public administration. First is professionalism. Public administrators must always act professionally. Anything they do can damage their reputation. On our previous discussion about Republic Act number 6713, it hereby defined professionalism as public officials and employees shall perform and discharge their duties with the highest degree of excellence, professionalism, intelligence, and skill. They shall also enter the public service with utmost devotion and dedication to duty. They shall endeavor to discourage wrong perceptions of their roles to dispensers or peddlers of undue patronage. Second is ethics. After professional values comes ethical values. Public administrators must act with integrity in all of their doings to earn public trust. Integrity means always being honest and fair, whether it with their neighbors, friends, or businesses. Everything a public administrator does and says can be looked upon by the public. Many public administrators have been caught deceiving the public or acting unethically, and it often ruins their careers. Public administrators must always show integrity and be mindful of laws and regulations. They must not use their power in the wrong way. And if you want to become a public administrator, you must be willing to be under constant scrutiny by the public. That's why having knowledge of different code of ethics is beneficial on their profession. Third is what we call the accountability. Public administrators are employed by public and held accountable for their words and actions. Without accountability, public cannot be established. Additionally, public administrators need to ensure that public has access to information by being transparent as possible. It is the goal of public administrators to serve the public, not keep secrets from them. All decisions must be diplomatic and with the public's best interest in mind. So, we all know naman that being transparent is very important to gain the trust of the people needing the needed informations. For example na lang, in our block, di ba may mga binabayaran tayong contribution sa ating organization or department? So here, to be able to know that no one are making any anomalies, we prepare the statement financial report to let us know or the user kung nasaan ba napupunta yung perang binabayaran. Siyempre, pag di yun nagtugma, may something, thus transparency is essential. Lastly is objectivity. It instills respect, equality, and fairness. It doesn't matter whether someone has money or not. They must be treated fairly. Discrimination plagues the world, and it is a public administrator's job to make sure that the laws created do not infringe on any person's right. Everyone should be treated equally and with respect. One example nito is walang mayaman o mahirap sa mata nila. dapat pantay-pantay yung pagbigay nilang service sa lahat ng tao. Then, let's proceed to administrative ethics. It refers to the society's views of what constitutes appropriate behavior by its public officials. Like I said earlier, that ethics is a moral standard. Thus, when we say administrative ethics, it confirms on the behavior that a public employees or official should have. It is but relative that the rising demands of the people for a better public service is parallel to the rising rate of development and advancement brought about by global competence. As a result, there is an expansion and broadening of the responsibilities of public officers. Governed by the values and ethics of public administration and individual morality, public responsibility is assumed to provide an improved quality of life for all. Added to this perception is the adoption of recognized code of conduct, social reality, cultural norms, and ethical system for the formulation and implementation of public policies. Since a high degree of trust is an obligation imposed with confidence and authority on public officers, a corresponding high degree of unequivocal dedication, integrity, and excellence among and from the said servants and protectors is required. Thus, public officers must commit all the resources for the benefit and satisfaction of the people. Let me share to all of you yung nabasa ko regarding sa government. Yung government daw is a magnificent 3-story building. Yung basic foundation niya is yung people, yung first story naman is yung constitution, which is the expression of their sovereignty. Yung pangalawang story naman is yung official dome or yun yung mga grupo ng mga caretakers sa edifice. And yung pangatlo, and yung high story naman is found the altar wherein is zealously kept and guarded the mystic fire which symbolizes and signifies the faith and trust of the people. Siyempre, pag nag-collapse yung foundation, means destruction of the entire building. Siyempre, kung walang tao, wala din ang constitution, wala din ang government, at walang magtatrust sa government. So, pag nag-collapse naman yung first story, which is the constitution, it necessarily the collapse of the second and third stories. Then, the collapse of the second story, or what we call the official dome, because of the misdeeds and disloyalty ng mga public officials, it can result to the demolition of the faith of the people. Syempre, pag gumawa ng mali yung isang public official, syempre, automatic na mamawala yung tiwala sa kanya ng mga tao. Then, without the faith and trust of the people, no popular government can never ever hope to live and survive. Kasi nga, katulad sa tax, kinakonsider yung tao is a lifeblood ng government. As such, public officers must enshrine a sense of values and ethical standards in order to make harmony with the environmental innovations and rising demands. And once made to practice, respect is gained. From there, it can move people, organization, as well as a country in turmoil.
So good day everyone, I'm Juliana Cassandra Nesho and I will be discussing the ethical dilemma in workplace. So first and foremost, let us define ethics in workplace. So ethics in workplace is the moral code that directs employees' behavior with regard to what is right and wrong, in regard to conduct and decision making. So both the individual employees' best interests and the best interests of those impacted are taken into consideration while making ethical decisions at work. So based sa given na definition, ang ethics ay ginaguide ang employees on how they will act and decide inside the workplace. So dito na pumapasok yung tinatawag nating code of ethics, and each company has their own code of ethics. So for example, my mother is a government employee and they have their own code of ethics. So dito nakapaloob yung kanilang norms of conduct, prohibited acts and transactions, and yung corresponding penalties na kapag violate mo yung prohibited acts and transactions. So, sa paggawa ng isang code of ethics, lahat ng nasasakupan nito, whether the employees, the company, or the client, is kino-consider. So, next naman is ethical dilemma. So, ethical dilemma is very common yan sa ating mga tao. So, ang ethical dilemma or ethical paradox or moral dilemma arises when a person must choose between two options, neither of which is completely ethically acceptable. Although we face many ethical and moral problems in our lives, most of them come with relatively straightforward solutions. So, ang pinaka-common na magiging example natin dyan as a student is cheating. So, for example, you will be having an exam and hindi ka pa nakapag-review. So, you are now torn between mangungopya ka ba or tatanggapin mo na lang yung possibility na bumagsak ka kasi hindi ka naman nag-review. Pero at the back of your mind, you are aware na mali ang mangopya but you're just afraid na mag-fail. So, sa mga ganitong pagkakataon, hindi naman talaga tayo dapat mahihirapan mag-decide kasi alam naman natin sa sarili natin kung ano yung tama. Yun nga lang, there are certain circumstances sa pagdadaanan natin na mahihirapan talaga tayong mag-decide. And yun nga yung ethical dilemma. So, next naman is ethical dilemma in workplace. So, as they frequently arise at work, ethical challenges are particularly significant in professional life. Some businesses and professional associations follow their own codes of conduct and ethical principles. Discipline measures may be taken if standards are violated. So, yun nga, ethical dilemma is very common sa workplace kasi dyan mas prone ang temptations, especially when it comes to money. So, as I've said earlier, each company has their own code of ethics that they need to follow. And kapag violate nila ito, there are corresponding penalties as well. So, there are different kinds of ethical dilemma in workplace and I will give some examples in the next slide. So, let us proceed naman sa examples of ethical dilemma in workplace. So, first is running a personal business at workplace. So, sa mga ganitong pagkakataon, kadalasan, yung mga gumagawa nito is yung mga employees na hindi sapat yung kanilang mga salaries to provide for their needs and to their families. So, others is nagbebenta ng merienda or any material things. So, it is considered an ethical dilemma because the employees exactly know that what they're doing is wrong but they choose to continue doing it to earn extra money. Next naman example is reporting inappropriate behavior of a colleague. So this is also very common in workplace because in work, we build connections with our workmates and we value our relationship with them. So kapag may nakita tayong ginagawa nila hindi maganda inside the company, we are torn between reporting them or tatahimik ka na lang because your relationship with them is also very important with you. So, and if hinayaan mo na patuloy lang nila itong ginagawa, you are tolerating them and pwede ka pang madamay in the end. So, sabi nga dun sa discussion ng Group 3, able to create a ethically and socially responsible na workplace, we should provide protective mechanism para hindi matakot yung mga employees na magsumbong kapag may nakita silang hindi maganda na ginagawa ng co-employees nila. So, our third example is acceptance of gifts from clients. So, acceptance of gifts can be associated with bribery kahit na there are people who just want to show their appreciation for the employees that serve them. So, based sa napanood nating interview kanina, according to Ma'am Odessa, they are not allowed to accept gifts or cash to show professionalism. So, for example, there was this government employee na naka-receive ng pera from his client to show appreciation for the service that he had given, but he chose to return the money. So, sa given example is pinakita na na-overcome ng employee yung kinaharap ng ethical dilemma at hindi siya nagpadala sa temptation ng money. And I think all employees should inhibit this kind of attitude. So, our last example is special treatment for friends and families. So, this is very, very common inside the workplace kasi nga diba, as an employee, di may iwasan na meron tayong mga friends or relatives that would ask for our help. Kasi nga, ayaw nilang pumila and such and sasabihin nila na meron naman silang connections inside the company. So, as an employee, it is considered an ethical dilemma kasi nga, you're close with them and mahihirapan ka mag-refuse sa request nila. And on the other hand, you will be unfair sa public kasi nga there are people na nagsispend ng time and effort just to finish the transactions na ginagawa nila sa inyong company. And according nga to Ma'am Odessa, as an employee, you should prioritize public interest rather than your personal interest. And kapag inalaw mo yung mga ganitong behavior, magkakaroon ka na ng bias and magiging unfair ka na sa public. So, we are done now sa examples ng ethical dilemma.
Now let's proceed to the factors of negative behavior in the workplace. So negative behavior can have a wide range of repercussions on public officials and employees. Poor performance and low employee morale may result from a toxic workplace environment. So in the long run, it could damage your company's reputation and hinder your ability to recruit top people, and that is why it is important to curb office negativity before it gets out of hand. So the following are the factors of negative behavior in the workplace. First is the difficulty of coping the economic realities. So one illustration for this is the low salary. Since a lot of public officers receive low salary, especially doon sa mga local public officers, this results to corruption. So for example, a certain public officer in local areas or even in huge areas are tasked to do a project for the community. These public officers are given budgets for the project they are planning to implement in the community. And since sa kanila kasi mismo binibigay ang budget, some of these public officers, even if not caught or not really evident, they steal a little amount or portion from that budget. This happens mostly sa mga small barangays, wherein the smaller the barangay is, the smaller their salaries are as well. So hindi man pansin, pero this results in corruption kasi nakakakupit sila sa mga projects nila. So I'll include here the issue about the Doli Tupad. Doli Tupad is a community-based package of assistance that provides emergency employment for displaced workers, underemployed, and seasonal workers. So going back to the issue, the money that the workers will receive should be 5,000. However, what they got was only 3,000. So here, there has been a cut in the budget provided by the government. However, before it reaches the workers, it is already reduced. So I'll conclude here that the government should direct it to the citizen rather than passing through the barangays, which results to pangungupit or corruption. Next factor is the excessive desire for wealth. So here, it is very simple. For instance, when people in the same field, in this case a government, have different salaries. So one with a low salary tend to desire for more, especially comparing to higher officials working in the government. Their salaries are too much and very discrediting, lalo na sa mga lower officials. Therefore, this would lead to bad deeds that a public official or employees can make. Third is the low moral standards or values. So one negative causes of negative behavior, of course, is having a low standard when it comes to morality and values. When a person in charge, in this case a public officer, doesn't give significance to honesty, integrity, responsibility, and many more, one's moral standards will later on define how they act and work. So kung ang isang public official hindi ganon kataas ang standard sa pagiging responsable, he or she is most likely to be irresponsible. The same with other moral values. So fourth factor is the administrative behavior that facilitates or support corruption. Of course, when your administration openly facilitate corruption, you are most likely to follow the action. Can also be related with the number 1, wherein public officials are tasked for a project. Most of these public officials, hindi naman iisa lang ang gumagalaw or humahawak ng pera, which results in behavior such as corruption being normalized. Most of these public officials as well, if not involved in that pangungupit, they are most likely to stay silent or hindi nagsusumbong. And of course, the negative deed in the administration will just continue to grow. Fifth is the bad example set by the leadership. Leading by example is one of the most, if not the most important traits for a leader. Thus, when the leader chooses to set a bad example, employees and public officials may do negative behaviors. They are expected to perform tasks that the leader is unwilling to perform themselves. For instance, employees also lose respect and trust in the leader. Also, this may lead them to be inefficient in doing the tasks and copying the behaviors and actions of the leader. So, of course, in your workplace, a leader must set an example to the workers. If the leader herself is corrupt and inappropriate, syempre the members will follow. Can also relate with the fourth factor. When your administration openly support corruption, members are most likely to follow. So what more kung from the leaders pa? Sixth factor is the kinship system. Majority of employees aspire to progress in their positions inside an organization. But most family firms only provide a few options because family members typically hold the top positions. So for ambitious yet competent employees, the opportunity is crucial, so they will remain in the firm and put up their best efforts to improve it. Alternatively, if they believe there is no prospect for promotion, they will leave and move to other companies. So for example, their output contribution might be inefficient since the management is prioritizing their kin even though the employees are performing better. So those issues negatively affect most employee performances. Additionally, I would say this is already happening in a larger system, the political dynasty, pero usually in small communities or barangays, palagi rin ito nangyayari. This facilitate inappropriate behavior in government kasi most of the people na na-elect as public officers na related sa kinship system are most likely to abuse their positions and power. So, nalilesen ang democratic approach ng administration, so less opportunities to acknowledge new system and changes as well as improvements. Last factor is the cumbersome system of justice. Organizational justice has been identified as a significant factor that significantly affects how well employees perform in an organization. Because numerous studies have demonstrated when employees are treated unfairly, they naturally respond by producing less work as a result. So they are less effective, more prone to display negative behaviors, and of course, less likely to stick with the organization in the long run.
Executive Order Number 217. On August 19, 1939, the occasion of his 61st birthday, President Manuel L. Quezon issued Executive Order Number 217 that prescribes a set of civic and ethical precepts collectively known as the Code of Citizenship and Ethics to be taught in all schools in the Philippines. So a code of ethics designed to formulate a way of life for a free people must perforce be didactic rather than legislative. It must be based on an appeal to reason and a conscience and not on any threat of punishment. For the sense of right and the force of tradition offer far outweigh the most exacting legal sanction. So this code of ethics is not to be foster exaggerated nationalism or to glorify narrow and blind patriotism. Its objectives is higher, purer, nobler. It is to strengthen the moral fiber of our youth, to keep alive in the hearts of our citizens the value of ethical principle, and to proclaim the truth that moral discipline is the only sure road to national greatness. So under this executive order, may 17 na nakapaloob, and I'll be discussing 5. So number 1 is have faith in divine providence. Our constitution recognizes the freedom of religious profession and worship. So religious tolerance is necessary so that there may be peace among men and nations. And because of the tremendous importance of religion as a moral force in the lives of private individuals, and with a view to giving impetus to the formation of a God-fearing citizenry, insofar as is compatible with the freedom of conscience, our Constitution ordains that churches, buildings, and improvements used exclusively for religious purposes shall be exempt from taxation. So, in addition, isa sa pundasyon ng ating pagkatao at bilang pagka-Pilipino ay ang paniniwala sa Diyos. Sinasabing ito ang siyang nagiging gabay natin sa paggawa ng tama at sa pagdidesisyon sa buhay at sa pagsunod sa tungkulin bilang mamamayan. So kaugnay nito, Kung tayo ay may takot sa Diyos, may takot din tayong gumawa ng mga bagay na alam nating hindi makakapagdulot ng kabutihan sa ating kapwa. And for the number 2 for Executive Order number 217 is love your country. Love of country is demonstrated not by words but by deeds. It is not an occasional virtue to be exhibited now and then, but it is a flame that should constantly be kept aglow in our hearts. It is unflinching determination to serve and defend one's country at all times and at all costs. So one of the best example that we shows love for our country is pagiging citizen, which is ini-embrace and minamahal natin yung pagka-Pilipino natin at hindi natin ito itinatakwil, as well as showing nationalism and patriotism. And for the number 3 is respect the Constitution. So the Constitution is the expression of the sovereignty of the people. Its primordial aim is the welfare of all. Ang isang mabuting mamamayan ay sumusunod sa batas, dahil ang pagsunod sa batas ay nagko-contribute para magkaroon ng safe and peaceful country. Sinasabi din na ang batas ay idinisenyo para sa tao upang maging ligtas. So one of the best example na dapat nating sinusunod ay batas sa trapiko. Kapag sumunod tayo dito, maiiwasan natin ang mga involved sa gulo sa daanan at sa aksidente. In wholesome, the best thing na maipakita natin ang pag-respect sa saligang batas ay sa pamamagitan ng pagpapahalaga at pagsunod dito. So under the Executive Order number 270, the number 4 is pay your taxes. The foundation stone of all government is law and order. Without them, it would be impossible to promote education, improve the condition of the masses, protect the poor and ignorant against exploitation, and otherwise ensure the enjoyment of life, liberty, and property. So taxation is an essential power of government. Man is a social and political being. His nature demands that he live in the society of his fellow men. Living in the society, however, entails rights and duties, among the most important of which is the duty of each and every citizen to pay his just share in the expense of the government. We enjoy rights and privileges under the protection of the established government, and we must pay the price of that protection. Taxes are needed to defray the cost of public administration, law enforcement, and dispensation of justice, national defense, and the promotion of social justice in other important public services like the promotion of education, agriculture, trade and industry, as well as the construction of needed public works and improvements. So through taxes, government can fulfill their obligation to the public. That's why we as the citizen of the country must pay our taxes adequately. For the number 5 under the Executive Order number 217 is safeguard the purity of suffrage or panatiling malinis ang halalan at sumunod sa pasya ng nakakarami. So, suffrage is one of the most important political rights pertaining to its citizenship. If exercised with purity and noble purpose, it is the security of popular government. On the other hand, if perverted or basely surrendered by those in whose hands the law has entrusted its safeguard and protection, it serves instead to undermine the entire edifice of democratic institution. So suffrage is a public and social duty which should not be neglected. The electors owe it to themselves and their government to exercise this important political right not only regularly but judiciously. To preserve the integrity of elections, penalties for offenses against the ballot have been prescribed. No election law can be made effective without provision defining and punishing offenses committed at the polls. To curb as much as possible attendant evils our election law prescribes severe penalties for violation of its provisions. Penal laws, however, are not sufficient. The people should be conscious of their civic responsibility and should exercise the watchful care and reverential guardianship of their precious right. So this section want to emphasize to us to become vigilant when it comes in election. If there's an anomaly that we saw, we need to make an action. Example, talamak ang vote buying every election. Alam naman natin na ito ay isa sa black propaganda ng mga politiko upang i-manipulate ang resulta ng halalan. So as a citizen in our country, it's our duty to help and maintain the credibility of election in accordance to law.
Number 6 of the Executive Order Number 270. Love and respect your parents. It is our duty to serve them gratefully and well. There are no other people who can love and cherish us other than our parents, so we need to love and respect them. Our parents' love, especially our mother, is the best kind of love that we can experience, so it is natural for us to reciprocate that love. Our father are working hard to provide our needs with everything he can, so we need to appreciate and respect them because we owe them everything we have right now, either material or immaterial things. Value your honor as you value your life. Poverty with honor is preferably to wealth with dishonor. Honor is one of the things that money can't buy. It is one of the values that make us human. So we should value them like how we value our life. It is like an imaginary crown that makes us rich in values and greater than the most powerful people who lose their honor in exchange of their wealth. Lead a clean and frugal life. Do not indulge in frivolity or pretense. Be simple in your dress and modest in behavior. The cleanliness mentioned here is not just about the cleanliness of your body, but also the cleanliness of your soul. Our life is a gift from our Creator, with the trust that we will take care and cherish it. We must live a simple and meaningful life and avoid the temptations of frivolity and pretense. Live up to the noble traditions of our people. Venerate the memories of our heroes. Their lives point the way to duty and honor. We should practice the traditions of our country, and it is a must that we, as a citizen of our country, to keep our traditions and values alive, because those are the foundations of our country. We have to make sure that our country will not be fully influenced by foreign ideas and culture, because just like a saltwater fish being put in a fresh water, the essence of our country will die and the efforts of our national heroes to give us the identity and sovereignty will be put in void. Be industrious. Be not afraid or ashamed to do manual labor. Productive toil is conducive to economic security and adds to the wealth of the nation. Just like the saying, big things start from small beginnings, we, as a citizen of this country, should not be afraid to do manual labor. Because we are not just helping ourselves, but also the economy of our country. As long as we keep on working, our economy will strive. There is nothing wrong about manual labor. It is in fact a decent job. It is the foundation and the secret behind the success of our economy. So it is just and a must that we should be industrious.
The next executive order is to rely on your own efforts for your progress and happiness. Be not easily discouraged. Persevere in the pursuit of your legitimate ambition. Our life is what we make it. If we succeed, it is necessary that we possess self-reliance, courage, and perseverance. For out of these qualities, a new strength is born, which will enable us to overcome adversities and conquer difficulties. Even a bent tree finally succeeds in ascending the sky and resisting the winds through its own sufficiency. Therefore, trust yourself, be courageous, and persevere in your task. The next executive order is to do your work cheerfully, thoroughly, and well. Work badly done is worse than work undone. Do not leave for tomorrow what you can do today. A nation of energetic and busy people, a people working cheerfully and thoroughly, all shoulders to the wheel, with muscles swelling, with hearts pounding. A people finding in work the consummation of all their hopes and desires. A people who consider a duty well done as its own sufficient reward, is a nation destined, under God, to be great and strong. These examples of Filipino initiative, enterprise, and loyalty to duty may not lapse into futility. It behoves us present-day Filipinos to cultivate these virtues not only for our personal advancement but for the progress and prosperity of our fatherland as well. Without the will to work, industry degenerates into drudgery, and it's no other better than slavery. Only by adopting a correct attitude towards our work and giving whatever talent is given to us and justify our existence in this world. In the words of Emilio Jacinto, work is a gift to humanity because it awakens and gives us vigor to intellectual power, will, and body, which are indispensable for progress in life. The next executive order is to contribute to the welfare of your community and promote social justice. You do not live for yourselves and your families alone. You are a part of society to which you owe definite responsibilities. It is our duty to help in the promotion of social justice so that every Filipino may have the opportunity to acquire, through toil, his necessities in food, clothing, and shelter, together with reasonable comforts and leisure that will permit cultural self-improvement and participation in the blessings of an enlightened civilization. The next executive order is to cultivate the habit of using goods made in the Philippines. Patronize the products and trades of your countrymen. It is important that we develop our local industries with the aim in view of diminishing our imports, retaining our wealth within the confines of our country, and increasing the earning capacity of our people. Enterprising men and women have headed this call to develop domestic production, and as a result, factories have sprung up in our towns, and even in the barrios, we witness the expansion of household industries. But unless we patronize their products, the efforts of these men and women are doomed to failure. We should cooperate in building our national economy, and where we cannot actively produce, we should at least, as a matter of patriotic duty, buy locally made products in preference to imported goods. The last executive order is the use and develop our national resources and conserve them from posterity. They are the inalienable heritage of our people. Do not traffic with your citizenship. Real freedom must go hand in hand with economic stability, if not economic prosperity. Our vast domain and natural resources constitute the inalienable heritage of our people. We cannot alienate them. We are at most as a fructuaries thereof. They belong to the generations yet unborn. It is, therefore, our duty to conserve and develop them. Because of the vital importance of preserving our patrimony for ourselves and our posterity, the National Assembly passed Commonwealth Act No. 108, which was later amended by Commonwealth Act No. 421, imposing severe penalties on acts of evasion and of the constitutional and legal provisions on the nationalization of certain rights, franchises, and privileges. It is not enough, however, that we do not infringe the law in this regard. It is likewise our civic obligation to see that other people do not violate the law with impunity.
Let's start first with this meaningful quote by Franklin Knightley, an American politician from Canada, who says that a public office is not a job. It is an opportunity to do something for the public. The public office and employees, when we put it in a larger context, public office and employees are really not just merely a job, but an opportunity. Not just because they may receive separate vacation and sick days, paid federal holidays, good health insurance, and the opportunity to participate in government pension and retirement plans, but an opportunity as they have the power to influence people, to have a huge impact on them, something that some can do easily. This memorandum circular will provide us more comprehensive information which relates to what Mr. Franklin said on his quote. First, respect and uphold the Constitution and law of the Republic of the Philippines. The main objectives of making a constitution and law is to establish peace for the public's welfare. This can only be achieved if those in public service are seen to obey, respect, and uphold the Constitution and law of the country. In breach of their oath of office and in flagrant violation of their duty, the Constitution and law will not be protected and will result in the loss of validity for the people. A good example of this is how it relates to siblings. If they witness us breaking the rules, they are more likely to copy us, which will cause our parents problem. Second, observe the highest standard of morality, integrity, honesty, loyalty, and devotion to the public will. Without such rules, people will not be able to live amongst other humans. It makes society possible in the first place because it gives us a sense of what's right and wrong behavior in society. Without morality, integrity, honesty, loyalty, and devotion, there will be no hope for human civilization because without it, people would simply act according to their selfish interests without regard for the needs of right of others. To simply put, civilized social life will not be possible. With the aid and influence of public office and employees, this will assist people in learning how to function harmoniously and live well with one another. Third, perform his task thoroughly, faithfully, and efficiently. The ultimate goal of establishing trust will be achieved once it is clear that the public office and employees are performing their duties, not just accomplishing their tasks, but also meeting a specific target of doing it thoroughly, faithfully, and efficiently. The three aforementioned aspects of job completion are crucial as thorough work enables individuals to prove their achievement in terms of quality and quantity standards, while faithfulness entails a sense of assurance, confidence, and certainty in the public. Finally, being efficient in doing tasks will achieve a good result by just putting the resources they only have in the best way possible. Fourth, be physically and mentally fit for public service and live within his income. A public personnel with physical and mental problem will only result to unable to work productively and efficiently. Having such health problem would only prevent them from performing their duties and responsibility to the public well. In addition, the objective is to foster peace throughout the nation. So, it is sensible to live only within their income to avoid an issue in public like questioning their properties, suspicion of corruption, or worst case, create chaos. Fifth, expose corruption practices in the public service without fear and favor. Public trust has always been important as it serves as the cornerstone for establishing peace. On the other hand, exposing corruption activities in the public service without fear or favor will therefore strengthen public trust by demonstrating only honest service, no biased treatment on anyone, and no one is being protected no matter who the people are. This will shape the policies to combat systematic discrimination.
Serve the public courteously, justly, and impartial regardless of kinship, friendship, social standing, religious, or political differences. These only state that the official and the staff of the government are required to constantly put the needs of the public before their own. Public official and employee must always act impartially and without prejudice, especially towards the unprivileged and the destitute. Next, as a public official and employees, they must discharge duties promptly without the thought of gifts, benefits, or any remuneration which may influence the proper performance of official function. This pertains that the public servants and employees are required to carry out their responsibility with the utmost perfection, professionalism, and competence. Sinasabi rin dito na as a public employees, hindi dapat tayo tumanggap ng bagay sa ibang tao, lalo na kung makaka-apekto ito sa performance natin sa ating trabaho. In Section 3 of Republic Act 6713, in the definition of terms, sinasabi rin doon na hindi dapat tayo tumanggap ng mga regalo na matataas yung value. Ngunit, meron itong exception na pwede tayong tumanggap ng mga bagay mula sa ibang tao o regalo, pero yung mga mumulang o mga mumurahin. In addition, as a public employee or official, they must not engage in no business with government or with any private party, either directly or indirectly, which will be inconsistent with his position as a public servant. This means that as a public employee, hindi dapat sila magkameron ng conflict of interest. Hindi dapat nila gamitin yung posisyon nila para makalamang sa ibang tao o sa mga bagay na may kinalaman sa pagnenegosyo. Furthermore, as a government official, it is expected that they wouldn't divulge no confidential information coming to him by the nature of his office or duties. This points to that public official and employees are not permitted to use or disclose confidential or classified information made available to them by the virtue of their position, nor are they permitted to make such information available to the public to further their personal interest or to give unfair advantage to anyone or to prejudice the public interest. The best example of it is the guidance counselor or the student. As a guidance counselor, lahat ng information or kwento na sasabihin sa atin ng ating mga estudyante, hindi dapat ito makalabas, lalong-lalo na kung makaka-apekto ito sa kanilang buhay at makakasira ng kanilang imahe bilang isang estudyante. Lastly, it is one of the core functions of a servant of a people to be of service to them, towards achieving a better future as well as uphold, respect, and observe this principle, ever conscious that the public office is a public trust, which he should never violate, nor should he allow suspicious stories that such has been abused or betrayed. This encompasses that the government official or employee should uphold an utmost integrity at all costs, as well as should he never be a subject to doubt from the people that are expecting them to fulfill their duties.